Today I'm going to talk to you guys about labels. Now, Merriam-Webster defines label as a piece of paper, cloth, or similar material that is attached to something to identify or describe it, or a word or phrase that describes or identifies something or someone. When you think of a label, what's the first thing that comes to mind? For me, it's a piece of paper. It's something that attaches to something else to give it meaning. Something that tells you what's inside of it or what it's made of. We put labels on our food to make sure that we don't get sick when we eat them, to make sure that they're good for us. We put labels on hazardous materials to know, or to make sure that we don't end up getting sick because of them. But when did we start putting labels on people? See, something as organic as a person, something that changes every day, how does that warrant a label? See, that problem is especially confusing to me, because for someone like me, who's constantly being told to conform to a label, but can't necessarily conform to one because I don't fit in a single label. Now today I'm going to talk specifically about homosexuals and all the labels we have for queer people, simply because it's such a great example. For sexual orientations alone, we have two different types of labels, binary and non-binary. And under binary, we have bisexual, heterosexual, homosexual, asexual, demisexual. And under non-binary, andro or gynophilic, transsexual, third gender, or two-spirited. And those are just sexual orientations. That's just describing physical attraction. After that, we have romantic attraction, which we have aromantic, biromantic, heteroromantic, homoromantic, panromantic, or demiromantic. And then we move on to categorizations of physical appearance just within gay community. We have otter, wolf, bear, cub, chub, pup, bull, twink, plunk, gym buddies, jock, gym rats. We end up with 12 different classifications for just what somebody looks like off of a website called Mr. Hollywood, hubpages.com. Now, just from a title of a webpage like that, we can only assume that there's not a whole bunch of legitimate research that goes into it. But the fact that there's not a whole bunch of legitimate research doesn't mean that it's not there. The fact that it's not scholarly made doesn't mean that it's not there. There's 12 different categorizations just for gay men alone. That's not including lesbians or bisexuals or transsexuals or two-gendered people or third-gender people. That's a whole bunch of labels for just one thing, and it's absurd. See, the problem that I have is I don't fit under any single one of those labels. Yes, I may identify myself sometime as homosexual or something like that, but one thing that I was told by my freshman year here, by my drama instructor, was that sexuality is fluid. There is never one way of thinking about people. You may wake up, you may start your life, and you may think, you know, I'm straight. But is that because you legitimately feel that way, or is that because that's what you've seen all your life? You hear about people realizing, oh, I realized when I was 12 that I liked people, that I liked men. Was that because they were finally allowed to think that way? Was it because they finally let themselves think that way? Or is it simply because that's when they hit puberty and realized that they weren't feeling the same feelings towards the opposite gender as their friends were? You see, I went through this weird phase of like, do I like just girls or do I like just boys? Yes, there was this whole entire thing of experimenting. And I'm coming back to you today saying, I don't know. I don't just like men. I don't just like women. I don't fit gay because I don't necessarily like only men, but I tend to like them more often than I like women. There isn't a label for me. And it's kind of mutes the point of having a whole bunch of labels to include everyone, because they don't include everyone. Now, collectively from two sites, utne.com and wordpress.com, from two different articles, one of them labeled the most inclusive acronym ever, the other one, what's in an acronym. By combining the two that I saw, I came up with this long string of letters. We have LGBTQIP, 2S, NGCAA. What do those even mean? Does anybody even know what they mean beyond the LGBT? Because first and foremost, that's all anybody ever labels it as, that's all anybody ever thinks of. It's become this shortened LGBT+, because nobody cares to add on the rest of it anyways. For those of you that are curious, it stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transsexual, queer, questioning, intersex, pansexual, two-spirited, non-gender conforming, asexual, and allies. Now see, the problem there, though, is that those are still just queer people. And it got me thinking about this problem that labels tend to only benefit the majority. You never hear people saying straight. You never have to say that someone is straight. It's just always assumed. It doesn't single them out. I never say, oh, yesterday I was out with my friend John, a cisgendered, straight, white male. But everybody always feels the need to clarify. Oh, yesterday I was out with Beth, my sassy black woman friend. Or yesterday I was out with Anthony. He's gay, by the way. Or, yesterday I was out with, Cassandra. By the way, she's actually a he. We don't ever hear anybody speak that same way to cisgendered or straight. In fact, so much that there isn't a second S in here to describe straight. Just the people who empathize with those who aren't. Now, why is this a problem? Well, one can see that labels divide people into categories. And a category, by definition, according to Merriam-Webster, is any of several fundamental and distinct classes to which entities or concepts belong, or a division system within a system of classification. Division. Anytime I hear the word division in the context of people, it gets me worried. Because we've seen what division can do to people in the past. Apartheid in South Africa. Japanese during World War II, when we put them into camps almost as bad as the Jews in the Holocaust, just because we believed that they were going to attack us. Dr. Seuss even wrote a freaking book about it, titled The Star-Bellied Speeches. And with a group of these ridiculous-looking animals had stars on their bellies, but some did not. And just because those who did not have stars on their bellies, they were prejudiced against, they were discriminated against, they were seen as not as great. And if somebody's writing a children's book about something like this, then I feel it's a problem. You see, as of the 29th of March in 2014, only 16 countries, Argentina, Belgium, Brazil, Canada, Denmark, France, Iceland, the Netherlands, New Zealand, Norway, Portugal, Spain, South Africa, Sweden, United Kingdom, and Uruguay, and some sub-national jurisdictions, which would be parts of Mexico and the United States, allow same-sex couples to marry. That's 31 countries, 2 of which only allow you to get married in some parts of the country. In America, that would be 19, as Pennsylvania recently became the 19th state to allow gay marriage. I'd like to bring up another image for you. This is a map where it describes where it is legal to be gay. Not to be married if you're gay, but just to be gay in general. The red meaning not allowed, and the gray meaning marriage. I see a few gray countries on there, which would be the 29 that or the 31 that I mentioned earlier. But every single spot that is not gray, everything from yellow to red, those are all places where it is either where it is illegal to be gay. The yellow meaning a different age of consent, meaning if you're gay, you have a different age of consent. Or the darker yellow means that you have laws against gay expression, such as Russia, where you can be imprisoned for holding somebody's hand if they're the same gender. We move down to the orange, where it's imprisonment, where it's not just, oh, you get a fine or you go to jail for a little while. You get sent to a federal prison, and you serve a sentence that has a set bail. To where we go down to the death penalty. And we see this death penalty more closely in these regions in the northeast side of Africa, and in the southwest side of Asia. All the purple spots are contradictory laws, where they have laws passed where it's illegal to be gay, but then they have laws passed where it isn't. The fact that we have so many spots in this map colored is appalling to me, because we're also giving the one most important label that we should be giving to everybody, and that's human. Nowhere in this label of sexual orientations do we have a label that says human. Nowhere in romantic do we have human. Nowhere in these categorizations do we have human. Nowhere in this acronym is there an H to represent human. Because at the beginning of our life and at the end of our life, that's all that we are, is human. We're not a different species from each other. We're not different animals. We're not a different sort of out-of-world being. It's absurd that something as simple as sexual preference or romantic preference or gender expression is being treated like some sort of disease when it's something that can be diminished to something as simple as preferring applesauce to pudding. Something that separates crunchy peanut butter from creamy. It's the same kind of thought behind it. In a country, especially like America, where we like to think of freedom and diversity. Something where humans separate themselves from other animals because we are diverse and we are unique and we celebrate freedom. But as soon as something different or unique comes up between us, we end up killing it. Now you may think, well, hate crimes have gone down and there aren't as many people being murdered. That may be true. But we're still driving people to murder themselves. According to the trevorproject.com or .org, suicide is the second leading cause of death among young people ages to 24. The only thing leading that cause is accidental injury. LGBTQ youth are 3 times more likely to attempt suicide than their straight peers. So if you have a room full of 4 students, all of which are all